I'm Janice Edwards. Coming up on Bay Area Vista, we are on location at the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area's community school. It's the last day of school and we'll be talking with Robert Woods and many others.
Join us.
Good job.
What happens when a bank does the right thing? For almost 150 years, you build long-term relationships, and that's good business. That's why we kept lending money when our customers needed it most. And we didn't get involved in the business of subprime loans. Doing right. It's just good business. Union Bank.
Welcome to Bay Area Vista. I'm Janice Edwards, and we are on location in Oakland at the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area's community charter school. It's the last day of school, and for Robert Woods, this is a special day. Robert, tell me about your experience this school year.
Well, the experience has been great. Like, they have fun programs, lots of things to do, to learn more things. I think it's been a great experience for me.
Specifically, what have you enjoyed or what have you learned that will stand out for you that you'll keep in mind throughout the summer?
Well, one class I've taken was aeronautics, and it teaches you how to fly. One day I want to become a pilot when I grow up, so that's been really helpful to me.
That's very inspiring. I look forward to that. Now, what school did you attend before coming here?
I attended Madera Elementary in El Cerrito, California.
How is this school different from Madera?
Of different programs, I should say. Activities, like the different curriculum.
I know one of the things that the 100 Black Men has said in this school is that they want to really inspire young African American men to have successful futures. Do you feel that being here has really made a difference for you in that way?
Yes, it has. It's changed me a lot, like how I've been as a student. Or as here, they call us scholars. They want us to feel like we're somebody special. Yeah.
Dr. Stanley Johnson is the principal of the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area Community School, and now you're wrapping your first year. When you took the job last year, what did you expect?
I guess for me, I was very excited about the prospect of being able to work with African American male students, and particularly around the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. When the 100 recruited me, they were very specific about closing the literacy, STEM gap, and also just finding alternative and positive kind of spaces for African American male students to thrive. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Much of my PhD dissertation findings focuses a lot on productive spaces for Black males and children in general. So I was just extremely excited about the opportunity to be able to see something like this and play a critical role in helping to build it.
Yes. When you talk about studies, one of the ones that always stuck with me, I think it was the Larry P. study years ago that said that young African American males in first grade became disenfranchised or disillusioned in school because when they were saying, me, I know, teacher, the teacher would interpret that as being belligerent or something if the teacher wasn't culturally sensitive or from the same culture. And that starts many young men on this track we see the tragic results of that. So how do you respond to the natural spirit that many of the boys have here, and what have you done within the classroom to foster that?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, we have to think about just the historical contributions that African Americans have made to this country and just the world at large. Our school, we do a lot of culturally relevant instructional practices that kind of meet students where they are, that's rooted in kind of rigor, relevance, and relationships. In the classroom, more specifically, you'll find teachers really play a critical role in meeting students and understanding them, their families, and the things that they kind of bring to the classroom, and we start there. Then we gradually move into kind of Common Core state standards aligned curriculum, but before you can do anything, you have to know who it is that you are serving. And for me, as an instructional leader here, I really do a great deal of making certain that my teachers understand the role of race when it comes to instructing our kids. Our faculty, for the most part, we have 80% are African American. We do have one teacher who's not African American, but they come from a tradition of understanding culturally relevant instruction. They also know what it means to be, a person from kind of say in society a marginalized perspective, and they work in conducive ways to just affirm our kids. So if you ever come into the classroom, you will see kind of circles versus kind of the traditional, rows in the class. That is one of the impetus that we, as culturally relevant kind of theorists in general, believe kind of just starts a more communal versus this kind of, capitalistic, competitive like spirit. And don't get me wrong, our boys are very competitive, but you really want to create a space where they feel love, that what they're going to bring and contribute overall is validated, and more specifically that the teachers will find ways to just continue to build upon what they bring to the classroom.
Literally, I've grown a lot, not only just as a teacher, but as a person too. I've actually learned more from these kids than I think they learn from me. A big thing that I see is confidence. For wherever they've been before, that someone's told them they couldn't do it, and they can. They're a lot smarter than they think they are. They're brilliant students. The curriculum here actually addresses the issues that they have. They did really well. I'm actually very, very proud of them. So.
Let's talk about some of the specifics in the curriculum that you were teaching.
Math in particular, where I try and get it to relate to how they live. When it connects to them, they want to remember it more. But the big thing I get is, why am I learning this? And I can connect that to the math. You're learning this because you may want to build something one day. You need this math to build it.
Victor, when you started this, what did you notice was one of the biggest needs for the young boys here?
Biggest needs was confidence and knowing that they're safe and that they can trust the staff and others. A lot of the kids come from different walks of life, different areas. They're not all from Oakland, but once they found a sense of trust that we know what we're doing, then that's one of the most important things.
When establishing that sense of trust, a lot of times it can be through games, but how do you get young men to open up about some things that might be troubling, but they might not want to share regarding family situations, etc.?
Sometimes I use a counseling technique called self-disclosure, which I may tell a story about myself going through something similar, or I may tell a story about something that I've seen before in the past when I was in school or their age. And that kind of helps them say, oh, also staying, I guess, knowing the current things that they like, music, arts, whatever it is that's going on for the young people, younger than me. If you know about it, even if you don't listen to it or if you don't appreciate it, just having knowledge of it, they really like that because they feel like you kind of believe in some of the things they believe in. And so that can help you buy in with getting to know the guys. Like a lot of the kids like to make beats in the computer lab, or they like to just write a rap or a rhyme, and understanding what it takes to be a very good musician, artist, reading, comprehension, fluency. You have to know how to put a word together.
Absolutely.
And so anything I can tie in from the community that I know that the kids really appreciate or like, I bring it into and try and implement it with my techniques. Also going on English, math, and just better health and anything I can bring in. You got to outdo the streets. If they see a guy in a nice car, and he's not working, and he's just driving around, maybe selling drugs or whatever he's doing, you have to outdo that.
Saud Nasir is a sixth grader here at the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area Community School. So how has your year been?
It was nice. I didn't think it would be that good, but when I started to kick in the school, it was perfect. We went to the Warriors game, and we got to go hiking. So yeah, and I like the environment. So it was nice.
Notice on the wall, for example, we're in the multipurpose room, you see, I am dependable, I am accountable, I am empowered. Are these the messages that you're getting every day in class?
Oh yes, we have to stand up every morning and stick our chests out and say, we are a reader, I'm responsible, I'm empowered, I'm accountable, I'm dependable, I'm excellent.
I really believe that it's important for African American males to just actually have an excellent teacher in front of them. I don't have the gender issue. I do think on some occasions that you definitely need male to male kind of like situations, particularly as young men begin to mature and actually just seeing, in society, you don't always have a positive narrative about the African American male. So with the teaching profession being almost 90% white and female, I think it's important to kind of disrupt that. And if you have a male that can actually be there, but I also want to go on the record and make it seem like I don't like hire around male or females. I look for the best person that I think would be good to carry out the mission and vision of our school and who would be appropriate in front of the young man.
When we talk about the culture too, there's so many influences these days with young men, the way they think. We've got hip hop, and there are some positive messages, but a lot of them are not. And then sometimes when it comes to all male environments, there's a concern about how females will be treated in society based on that. Are there any culturally sensitive instructions that are here regarding that as well?
Yes, one of the critical components of our charter was to foster a sense of brotherhood. And I think when you understand who you are, where you come from, and that your place in the context of that conversation, it's very important for us to build and instill that in our young men. With respect to brotherhood, first and foremost, our young men, they have a mother. And they need to know what it's like to treat women, in a very appropriate manner. We do help the young men as much as possible for them to understand forms of misogyny, forms of just like, racism, even homophobia, and different things that are kind of just not always discussed in our community. And you do it in a way that is age appropriate. But one thing is our young men, they have our school pillars. Every morning they recite that they're responsible, they're empowered, they're accountable.
This is the scholar holler.
Yeah, they're
so can you go
dependable.
through the scholar holler for me?
Oh, sure. Just say, good morning, scholars. And they say, good morning, Dr. Johnson. I say, who are we? We are readers. We are responsible. We are empowered. We are accountable. We are dependable. We are excellent. And we are respectful. We are scholars with a goal, and we are ready to learn. So every piece of that, at some point, say if they happen to fall short of whatever, we make them think about which one of the pillars were you not upholding. And I would say in the context of understanding women in particular, you cannot be disrespectful to anyone, but more specifically, this is someone who provided life for you. And while you might hear different images in the media, with hip hop and things of that nature, particularly our older students, they learn, yes, I might use certain language, but how appropriate is it? Breaking down the context of the narrative is things that our teachers are actually teaching them. So we're not saying that you can't like this type of music, but we hope that if we can impart some knowledge onto you, eventually you might make better choices in our aspect. But historically too, if that's what you hear in your community, you have to kind of disrupt it in a way where you're just not telling them that it's completely all bad. Whereas most kids think, well, are you saying that I can't listen to this music or that's wrong? In many ways, the media has done a job in training them to like certain things. And so what I like and what I think is important for them to grow into find confident young men might counter that. But it's more about not saying you can't listen to this, but be more conscious about what you're listening and feeding to yourselves.
Yes. And you mentioned mothers. When it comes to parents, what kind of meetings have you had with the parents to help them really understand what you're doing and sometimes maybe change some dynamics at home to ensure the young men's success?
Yeah, well, one of the things too in our charter is that we make certain that parents volunteer a minimum of 20 hours for the whole academic year. We have what's called a parent cafe, which is essentially like our PTA, but the parents pretty much run those meetings. I come, I provide my principal update, and a lot of times we bring up many ideas that are, many of the issues that are very pressing and prevalent with our kids. So at the beginning of the school year, we had some issues with bullying. We had issues where a lot of the students didn't even know that they were bullying. So at a parent cafe, we would bring in an expert or from that, some of the parents pulled their resources together for us to have an assembly by different members of, say, armed forces or the police academy, just to help people understand what it's like to be bullied. Those meetings in particular kind of naturally created different types of committees where people saw the need of where some of our families were disenfranchised.
At the top of the show, we were speaking with Robert Woods, and now we're talking with his mom, Ikisha. You decided to bring Robert to this school. What drove that decision for you?
Well, let's see. So I took him out of the school that he was in previously, which is a public school near our home. He had been at the school since kindergarten. But every year I felt like the school or the teachers really, they weren't tapping into what I guess inherently know as a parent to be his talents and his strengths. And I saw that he was being moved into a track of maybe special education, supplementing his education. Maybe there's something wrong with him that he's not able to perform or conform to this environment. So that's one thing. The other thing was he's approaching middle school, and I just wasn't comfortable with middle school in our area. So I began to just kind of look outside of our area, look at some other other private schools. And one of the design team members for this school came and spoke at our church and mentioned the school, and a week later I saw a little short write-up about the school in our local newspaper.
So how's the experience been for him? He certainly seems very skilled, talented, and aware of everything.
His experience has been one of growth. He's experienced a lot of growth in his level of maturity. He's been able to exercise a lot of his leadership skills. And in being just a good role model or a model for citizenship, really, in being respectful to the adults here, teachers and administrators, respectful to his fellow scholars, regardless of, their ability to, irregardless of their ability to perform in class or make friends. He is very respectful of everyone, and he likes to make friends of everyone and make sure that they're really comfortable in his presence. So, yeah, he's kind of that calming force. So he's had, there's always a little struggle with getting to know people that you didn't know, because he left a school where he'd known these kids since being, since 5 years old. And now he's in an environment where he's just meeting new kids. Now they're 10-year-old boys. Not everyone has come from, same neighborhood or anything like that. But throughout those struggles, he just I kept pushing him to go to, just continue to receive the gifts that were waiting for him in this experience in coming to the 100.
Life has a tendency to teach what's right and what's wrong, and you learn it from experience. Trust, integrity, commitment. We must have that. If you have that, then we have everything.
Doing right. It's just good business. Union Bank.
Dr. Mark Alexander is chairman of the board of the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area Community School. And I know that this came from a previous program of 100 Black Men. So explain exactly how the school came about.
Exactly. We started a program called Youth Movement about 12 years ago. And that program was started to address the needs of Black children who have a serious health deficit. We found that there were children who were pre-hypertensive, they were hypertensive, they were diabetic. So there was a pattern of premature aging among our children because they weren't active, they weren't fit, they weren't eating the right types of foods. So we started a program called Youth Movement that went to schools, and we started in-school programs, after-school programs, and weekend fitness clinics to get children engaged and get them to embrace a culture of health and fitness. From there, we noticed that we could do a lot to mentor these young men and women and have an effect on their character development. Many of our children were engaged in inappropriate activities, and so from the health and fitness, we started addressing character development and general mentoring, and then we started to take a look at the academic performance of our children. And we realized that Oakland schools and Richmond schools were failing our children. And so we, 100 Black Men of the Bay Area, decided that we would develop educational models that would allow our children to succeed.
Yes, and so now that you're completing the first year, what kind of grade would you give yourself?
I'd give ourselves a C. We have a
Okay.
long way to go. We've gotten a lot done, but we have some children that need a lot of work, and so we're making the adjustments necessary. We're bringing in new faculty members. We want faculty that can get eye level with our boys and who are not afraid of them and who love them and are willing to nurture them.
Yes. And I know you had 80 students this year, and the projection for the coming year is double that number?
Yes, slightly lower than double. We're hoping to get 145 students next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as you look back, I know you said you give yourself a C, but of what are you most proud in this past year?
I think we've begun to establish our culture. We are doing the things necessary to address the behavior problems that a lot of our boys have. A lot of our boys are grieving. A lot of our boys have some stress issues. Some of them have been traumatized, and so we're finding the wrapping around services that are necessary to support the boys and their families. And I think we're going to make do a much better job in addressing the academic issues that our boys face. Our babies, the kindergartners and first graders, are really on a good, solid track. Now we want our older boys that we've inherited from other schools. We want them to embrace the rigor that we are offering them.
Yes. Well, I thank you so much for the work that you've done for our community this first year. And if you'd like to contact 100 Black Men of the Bay Area Community School, the details are on our screen. We are on location at the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area Community School, and we're in the library talking with a documentary filmmaker who has quite a body of work, but one film in particular is dealing with what's ill in Oakland.
That we are putting our
We're talking with Jacqueline Ngoseke. Jacqueline, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
So you decided to do this film, this documentary, because you're concerned, as many of us are, about what's ill in Oakland.
Yeah.
What are you covering specifically?
What I'm covering is first of all what we're doing to resolve the problem, and also what the problem is. You know, what are the going-ons in Oakland, and so we're filming, and we're doing it like a round table where we're speaking with the mayor and the chief of police. I want to get everybody's ideal of what they think is the problem and what is ill in Oakland. And I think that once we get to the bottom of what the problem is, then we can start resolving it, you know, finding the solution. But first you have to find the problem. And I don't think everybody agree about what the problem is. Some think it's one or two things. Some people think it's a whole lot of things. I think it's more than what.
Well, it's systemic,
different.
and so there are a lot of different heads, and you can look at one and attack that, but you're trying to get to the core.
Yeah, to the
this.
root of the problem. You know, you have to get to the root of the problem. Once you heal the root of the problem, then I think everything will be taken care of. And I think we fail to realize that the same system is set up for failure, for
it used to be black men, but now I want to say to poor people, period. I talked to a few people. I went into the schools, and I found that they are doing this thing called pity passing, where they are passing our kids without them having the proper education. I spoke to one teacher that's going to be in the interview pointed out students that were graduating to the 9th grade. They couldn't read 4th grade level.
What you're doing is powerful, and I'm glad that you are shedding light and giving voice to what so many people are experiencing,
Right.
and looking toward solutions, because that's what we're all about, is
Yes.
trying to find solutions coming together for that.
Yes. Well, the situation is near and dear to me because I have a 14-year-old grandson
Wow.
that lives in East Oakland, and he's afraid to be there. He doesn't want to live there because he hears the gunfires. When I went into the class, there are students that are only 14 years old that have had family members and friends that have died.
Yes.
You know,
Too many.
Imagine at the age that they are at, that they have experienced death already. Someone that's near and dear to them. And you walk through the neighborhood and you see these abundance of flowers and candles, and you know that somebody has perished there.
Right. Thank you so much. If you'd like to contact Jacqueline, details are on our screen, also at bayareavista.com. And that's our show. I'm Janice Edwards. Thank you for all that you do to make our Bay Area the great place that it is. Please check out bayareavista.com, and please join us again next time. We look forward to seeing you then.
What happens when a bank does the right thing? For almost 150 years, you build long-term relationships, and that's good business. That's why we kept lending money when our customers needed it most. And we didn't get involved in the business of subprime loans. Doing right. It's just good business. Union Bank.
Good morning, scholars. Then they say, good morning, Dr. Johnson. Then after, we say, who are we? We are readers. We are responsible. We are excellent. We are accountable. We are dependable.
We really go the extra mile with the students. A very, very, very low expulsion rate. We don't put kids out. We give you several chances, and usually those kids take those chances and turn themselves around. It'd be a different experience from any other public school I've been to.
Do you have a goal for the future? What do you hope to be when you grow up?
I'm going to go to college and get my engineering degree, master degree, and I might play basketball. And if that don't work, I'm going to get a business degree and make my own business.
So if someone's coming to the school next year, what advice would you give them for being a successful scholar here?
Just be yourself. Don't try to be a follower, be a leader.